we're good to go. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Refresh. I am so happy to be together today with all of you to value this time, the time that we have to connect, to be inspired, right? To learn something and ultimately feel a bit better for this time spent together. And, this is what Generation W is all about. And this need to be refreshed remains as necessary and vital to our well-being as ever. Who would think, right, that we are back where we were in terms of all of the COVID pressures? And yet, here we are. And I'm so happy that Genevieve is here with us today to talk about purpose when all is swirling around us as it is, because it's so helpful to get anchored in the why we are here. And like I said, in the context of what is happening in the world, well, the plight of women and girls in Afghanistan has truly stopped me in my tracks. It reminds me that with all of our faults here in the US of A, and we know there are many, and we want to be fixers and healers of as many as we can, the systematic bias manifested in so many ways, we do know that when we wake up tomorrow, we are free. We're free. We're free to choose our purpose and pursue it. The women and girls in Afghanistan do not seem so far away to me today, right? They don't know that they're going to wake up free tomorrow. The ability to go to school, to pursue their dreams, to be safe, to be seen. Actually, being seen is not something that they can even aspire to anymore. They have to be covered up. For them, the ability to pursue their purpose and their passion, going to school is not a given. And those who have attended are perceived as threats and currently are subject to violence and even death threats. It's horrifying. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Several years ago, I was introduced, and many of us who are part of Gen W, I'm looking at our list, and many people here, had the chance to meet an amazing young woman. And she needed help. I got a call from a friend who said, Donna, there's this woman, she needs help. We need to help her. What do we say? We always say, absolutely. How? How can I help? What does she need? And when Nilüfer Rahmani and her sister walked into our Generation W offices and shared their story, I will tell you, their story, who they are, changed my life. You see, Nilüfer found her purpose in life, spurred on by her dad when she became a pilot, the first female pilot in the Afghani Air Force. In her pursuit, she was bullied. She was denied her due based on her merit and her performance. She was threatened, as was her family, who had previously been refugees in Pakistan after the Soviets left and were now refugees in their own city, moving around Kabul to find safety as their daughter's position created resentment and serious danger. She came to America to train as a C-130 pilot, I think that's what it was, and never went home. Her family said, don't come, it's too dangerous. I have to say that, she ultimately appeared on our Gen W stage. I think it was 2018. She brought us to her feet as our hearts swelled and our eyes watered to see such courage in her purpose. And then it was her email just a few days ago. I forgot where I was, that it once again literally burst into tears. And she was asking for help. I'm sorry about that. She was asking for help. Her dad and her mom. And why is this going like this? Okay. Sometimes we can't predict. Such it is in the time of COVID. Anyway, so she was asking for help because her dad and her mom and her sister who are back in Afghanistan are in trouble. She feels they're in danger, and she is deeply worried about what's going to happen to them. And so, again, the brain works. What can we do to help them out? So I am here today with Nilüfer and her sister, heavy on my heart, but it extends to all that are deeply worried about their families and all of the women and girls who are at risk. I've always been inspired by Nilüfer and her finding of purpose, the strength to continue to follow her heart. But for all of us today, as we welcome Genevieve Piturro, who will share her story of finding her purpose, I'm reminded of just how special this opportunity is, that these are our rights, as Nilüfer will tell you. Sherry?
I was born into an incredible parents. They given me equal opportunities, the same as my brother. For most people, being equal is normal. But from where I came, girls should struggle to be allowed to go to school. And once they're age of 13 and 14, they're considered to be married and have babies, while boys are enjoying their childhoods. I believe being allowed to go to school and have freedom of speech is every human's right. I grew up in a middle-class family, but I always wanted to do something for the girls and women in my country. And I also wanted to complete my father's dream. He always wanted to be a pilot because he came from a poor family and no power, he never could achieve his dream. The only way I could change my future journey to setting goal for myself and say I will be the best. Because life keeps going and moving and doesn't wait for anyone.
Life does keep going, and it is moving, and it's not waiting for anyone. But that doesn't stop us from continuing to move forward and trying to help each other. I love when she said, these are our rights, human rights. And as a global sisterhood, to see others who may lose these rights, actually what it makes me think of is it's how I find my purpose in helping to shed light and fight for those rights so we all may have them. Before officially saying hello to Genevieve, I do want to let you know that there's a petition from women's organizations and women like us from around the country asking the administration to protect these women. If you are interested in signing on, like I just did, we will get you a link. As we protect our sisters wherever they are in the world, we also protect ourselves. So with that, Genevieve, today is a perfect day to talk about purpose. How about a young woman who is showing her courage in her purpose, but you come to us with your own unique story and how you come to this work. So thanks for being here and thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Donna. How powerful. I'm so inspired. This is the best thing about social media, that we can see that you can show us that if we don't see it in its original form. It's so powerful for us to share stories and to listen to these amazing women. It really does wake us up, doesn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. And we wake up with it every single day. But yeah. You have a wonderful story about purpose and passion, a revelation, which we're all like waiting for the revelation. What is it? But share with us your story. How did this all begin for you?
Yes, I guess you can say I had an aha moment. And when I talk about purpose, I coach and teach how to find your purpose and sometimes it finds you. And that's what happened to me, because I always wanted to climb the corporate ladder. I wanted to be that woman in a big city. For me, it was New York, single, having adventures and just climbing, that top floor of a big building. And for 12 years, I did that in New York City, and I was in marketing and I loved it. Talk about workaholic. It was crazy. And there was never a dull moment. And it was a great life. I'm not going to say it wasn't. But one day, 12 years in my apartment alone, I heard a voice come from me, but it came from here and not this, which I know is chattering to us all the time. It was a different voice. And I heard it ask me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? And that stopped me cold. First, it frightened me, but then I realized maybe it'd been trying to question me before, and I just wasn't quiet enough to hear that. And I found myself wondering, what am I doing? I'm alone, and I will be alone. This has no meaning. I'm working, I'm making people money, and I'm working for the status and that I always thought was it. And I realized that my Italian traditional upbringing, which meant get married and have kids after college, of course, was something that I really didn't feel was part of my life, but maybe I had missed something. And I realized I did miss having children in my life. And I thought, how can I bring children in my life? Now, this was all over a matter of hours and days. I really went soul searching, but it didn't take long because I do think it was there. And I think we all know what is on that back burner if we have quiet time. So I called some police stations and asked them where they bring these children who are in harm's way 24 hours a day. We all see it in the news. We all read about these children who are through horrible traumatic incidents with people who are supposed to take care of them. And I asked, where do you bring these children? And they told me some of the emergency shelters in my area. And I called and I asked if I could read at after work, if I could maybe bring some stories and read after work, bedtime sort of. And they welcomed me. They said that that would be really nice. And I went in with this big bag of books in my suit. And they showed me into this room where there were just a couple of little chairs for children. So I sat on the floor with my bag of books and in my business suit. And in about 5 minutes, I see these little faces peering into the door. And they brought in about a dozen little children. Now, I didn't ask questions and they certainly didn't offer information, but I could tell that they were brought in recently. They were in clothes that just some of them were soiled and didn't fit properly. And some of them, kids had been crying. They were so afraid. They sat down on the floor and I read for about 45 minutes. They were quiet and they looked around and I just knew that they were so afraid and lonely. That was another stop in this mysterious night and they didn't know what was going to happen. So night after night, week after week, I read stories. And one night after I finished, I watched where they were taking them to go to sleep and I followed. And when I looked in the room, it broke my heart because there were just cots and futons and 2 or 3 children helped up on the surface, staying in their clothes. Some of them were crying and the staff were so lovely. But I saw these memories in my mind of my mom and our bedtime. And it was nothing like what I was watching. We had her comfort and her love and giggles and stories and snacks and hugs and kisses and pajamas, of course. And I didn't see no pajamas. And I asked them if I could bring pajamas. I asked the staff and they said, sure, that'd be great. So I brought pajamas and I was so excited the next time. And as I handed them out after I read to the children, one little girl was so afraid to take them from me. She just kept shaking her head, no, 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 no. And her ponytails were lopsided and her shirt was soiled. Her shoes were about size 10 and maybe she was about 6. And she wanted to watch me though. And so they took the other children once they had their pajamas to go into that room to sleep. And she was still watching me with her staff person. I went over and knelt down and I tried again to give her that pair of pajamas I had held for her. I had her touch them and I told her look how soft they'll fit you and they're gonna make you sleep so well. And she whispered to me, what are these? What are pajamas?
Oh,
and she
wow.
hardly say the word.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't think I heard her right. What are pajamas? And I looked at the staff person and she mouthed to me, she doesn't know what pajamas are. And I had to explain to this little girl. And I just couldn't stop thinking about her. I acted normal. I didn't want her to think she'd make me cry. I wanted to cry. And the obsession began in that moment. And I just couldn't stop thinking about not just her, but how many more like her.
Right. And so where did you take that story?
Well, I thought it would just be something I was going to do, when I could go read to the kids and bring pajamas, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And all day, every day, I just kept checking in on when can I come back and buying more pajamas. And of course, staff from one shelter would tell staff from another shelter, and I would get these calls. And it just blossomed into this secretive second, big project for me. I won't call it a job as it wasn't my job. And I just couldn't muster the enthusiasm for my job anymore. I tried and, I wrote a book because after 20 years of Pajama Program, which is what I called it, and 7 million pajamas and books and 63 chapters around the US now, that obsession and that purpose takes on a life of its own. And there are just so many incredible stories along the way. And anyone who's found his or her purpose or is looking for what can change your life, it takes on this magical, magical life of its own.
But let me ask you, Genevieve, it's interesting because you said you had an aha moment.
Mm.
When we think about that again, I think a lot of us come to the world looking for purpose and passion. It's like, okay, hit me, I'm ready. But it wasn't really a moment. It was actually an opening, it sounded like, of your mind and heart in seeking something that then developed. I mean, I mean, it could have been I mean, you said, is it aha? It was like that moment. Because I'm curious. I want to say hello to all of our viewers that are here and on Facebook. Erin, we are so glad. I've missed you too. Who's had aha moments? Why don't you share them with us? But is it that? Is it a moment?
Well, the question that I heard myself ask me was my aha moment. If this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? That woke me up. That was startling.
Ask you a question. Something happened to your audio there. I don't know what.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. When I heard that voice in me ask me, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? That was my aha moment. That came out of the blue. It startled me, and it made me question everything I had done for not just the 12 years of working, but what I had dreamed of before that. And that was the moment that woke me up. And everything that followed was just a continuation of what became a search. But it really, that little girl, I didn't go looking for that. All I wanted to do was read in a shelter. And after that moment, everything changed in my heart. And then after my heart, it changed in my head.
So how long did it take you to say, I'm going to give up corporate America and pursue my purpose? Because often we feel like we can't make that transition. How were you able to make that transition?
Yeah. Well, now I coach, there's a slide or a jump. I jumped. That's the kind of person I am. It took a while because I had no income other than my job, and I'm not a saver. So I didn't save up for anything that I might want to do. I didn't. And I did my job until I thought either I'm going to leave or I'm going to get fired. So it was almost a year in, because I was a star employee, as all of us workaholics are. And it slowly was slipping, and I could tell, but I thought, I'm fine. I'm a good juggler. I write a chapter, leave the juggling to the clowns. You think nobody notices? Let me tell you, they notice. And I realized, after I left full-time, took project work, even that became a distraction to what I really wanted to do. And I jumped. Now, during this time, I was single, and then I met this wonderful man. And I started to tell him, I think I might be leaving my job. I know you think you're getting involved with this career, girl, because I've been doing this and I'm really loving it. And he said, go for it. And I said, okay, he's a keeper.
Well, but it's really interesting that you chose to define yourself, which you said in the beginning, this is what I wanted. I wanted to be the corporate career girl. And so you meet somebody who's interested in having a relationship perhaps with you, and you had to define yourself. You think I'm this, but I'm not this. Mm-hmm. And you define yourself by your work.
I certainly did.
Do you all do that? Hey, listen, everybody, do you all do that? Do we all do that? Where does that leave us? What does that say about us and our connections to ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a disservice to ourselves. And I am so in awe of young people. I speak to colleges, I speak to women who are starting in the career, and I am so impressed by how younger people are demanding or aren't taking a job unless if it's a job, they're asking, what does this company do to give back? Or this is what my values are, and I want to be in alignment with it. Those were never questions I asked when I was interviewing.
Well, you probably wouldn't have gotten a satisfactory answer.
You're right. Donna, you're right.
So,
so that leaves the rest of us looking for our meaning in our chapter 2.
Correct. Okay. So, I have, what is the other thing that you're speaking about is success. So you're talking about purpose, but your purpose and how you feel about your purpose, implied in that is how you view your definition of success. So what is your definition for success?
Very different than it was when I was 22 interviewing. Well, I've learned that the reason Pajama Program is successful is the human connection. It's the sharing of stories. And I've never been happier than when I'm sharing and I'm listening to amazing stories. That's why I loved when the young lady was talking about her experience in the US and flight and her father and the choices that she wants everyone to understand is a right for us. Listening to that is something that I didn't do when I was climbing, chasing that success. And that's what led to the emptiness, I think, because since I started Pajama Program and I started telling our story, you wouldn't believe the stories that people will tell and share that are in some way related to a story you tell. And it's so rich. It's amazing. You don't feel like you're in a vacuum in life. You feel like you have this camaraderie with people, whether it's all women or men and women. It's a bond that you feel that's supportive that I had never felt climbing the corporate ladder. It's night and day.
Really? Really? Tell me what the night is.
Well, the night was when I realized I was going to be alone. Nobody cared about me in the corporate world. As long as I was doing a great job and raising the profile of the company and doing what I was supposed to be doing, they were happy to give me green stuff. But I was left with nothing here. It was here and it was on paper, the title I had and, a nice salary I had, and friends and family were impressed because that was impressive back then. But it's just shallow. It's just a frame. Whereas now, every time I have an opportunity, and certainly we've all had this opportunity in the pandemic, to hear people's stories. Some people did wonderfully well. Some people have lost loved ones. It's just an incredible light around those of us when we are sharing and listening to each other. And I did not have that in the corporate world. I thought I had enough people listening to me and talking to me, and I was listening to people, not the same.
Well, listen, this is a great comment from Sherry Chait, a wise woman that I've known my entire life, actually. And she says, when you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself and the other for helping others. That is my mom, by the way. And she actually has two hands. She actually has four hands and they all help others.
Oh.
So she's a very, very good role model in that way. But that's actually quite wise, I think, right?
Yes, brilliant. Yeah. It's service. It's service. That's what we want for each other.
All right. Well, listen, I'm a big believer, Genevieve, that you find purpose in everything you have to do. Let's face it. There's people who go to work and there's purpose in that work, or there's purpose in the relationships in that work or whatever, but you are a purpose expert. So how about if we jump in a little bit here? You have given us some of your teachings that we're going to talk about now on how to find your purpose. How many times a day do people come and say, I can't find my purpose. I don't know what my purpose is. How do I find it? How many of you are feeling that who are here with us today? What is my purpose? All right, let's start with the first thing. Go alone to your happy place. You said you needed quiet, interestingly enough, when you started this whole adventure.
Yeah. You when you're finding your purpose, at least when I was going through this transformation in the early days, it was so foreign to me. And the only place I could find peace was to really try to sift through what I was feeling, because I was feeling so much. And I was feeling so much more than thinking. And my brain was telling me all the reasons why I couldn't and shouldn't be acting on what my feelings were. And so there was this battle going on. But back to my coaching and my clients, and one of the first sessions is, I say, take 90 minutes in your happy place. An hour to me is too short. I think we all can feel an hour. And I don't know about anybody else, but I can tell when I'm coming up on an hour and that starts to distract me. But an hour and a half, I can get lost. And I think that a lot of people can get lost in an hour and a half. And that's what I recommend. So if you can, I say, get a glass of wine, get a cup of green tea, some cookies, whatever, ice cream, whatever makes you alone, happy, and comfortable. Do that. and set aside 90 minutes.
I'm digging the cookies. I'm confessing, everybody.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
digging the
Cookies,
cookies.
ice
Okay,
cream.
so we're in our happy place. We are
Yes.
quiet and we're listening to our,
Music, whatever you like.
okay.
Paper and pen, no computer. There's magic with your hand holding paper, a pen, and writing on paper through some intention that comes from your head and your heart right through to the paper. 10 things you love to do. Don't think it's silly. If you like to draw, and people have always told you you're a terrible drawer, it doesn't matter. Put the 10 things you love to do. Take your time. Think about 10 things you love to do, no matter what it is, and write them down.
Okay, it'd be fun if everybody anybody on Facebook, right, like what are 10 things you love to do? Our Zoom friends, it would be great to see what some people love to do. That would be wonderful to share with everybody. Okay, 10 things that you love to do.
I wish we had 90 minutes.
But this is interesting. Hold on. Was giving away pajamas one of your 10 things?
No.
So, okay.
No.
So there's some flexibility around this, or it begins to get you in an area of.
Yes, it begins to get you in an area of what you want. I didn't set out. When I coach people, it's because they've said, help me find my purpose.
Right.
I didn't have anyone, nor did anyone ever say in my presence, everyone has a purpose. I thought people like Oprah and Deepak Chopra and Einstein, I thought these are people who had purposes. They were given this gift that the rest of us, sorry, not enough to go around, but it's not true. We all have purpose. So when I teach purpose, I try to give people, place them in a setting that they're comfortable with themselves and can go in. I probably, if I had done this, I probably would have written about children and reading to children. That's as close as I would have gotten. And that's probably why the first thing I thought of was, let me call the shelter and see if I can read to the children. But the pajamas came as an out, as a branched out from that because of a moment. So absolutely, when you choose those 10 things and then you take a look, have a sip of wine, finish your tea, and cross off 5 and leave the 5 that tug on your heart.
Right. Well, but what's interesting though is if you got closest by reading to children, essentially what you've identified is a relationship of give and take with you and kids, which is what your pajamas think. So you know what I mean? It's not. It might be not the exact thing, but it is within. It's giving you a framework to understand, right?
Yes, you're absolutely right. That's what happened.
Right. That's what happened. Now, I haven't got, our friends are not sharing. Listen, if you share 10 things you like to do, it doesn't mean you're leaving your job or you're not happy or anything like this. It's just like talking about things you do. Now, Dory, she says, like, I rose the corporate ladder and she's been looking for her purpose for over 40 years. Genevieve, I think today is another success story for you. I think Dory is going to leave here today. Let's help her get to that final place, right? Of at least this passion for, that she could pursue for the next whatever. What do you think?
Sure. And I'm happy to take a call or email and set up time, just to brainstorm with people. So feel free to find me. I think there'll be a link to Genevieve Piturro on my website, and just contact me or Jen.
And that would be great. And Dawn's sharing she loves thrifting and vintage stores, which is really cool. And
cool. Hold on, I'm going to put my stuff in the chat so people can find me.
Great. And hunting for shark's teeth. By the way, I would like to be finding shark's teeth, which is great. And wine with friends. I guess you have to bring some wine into the office, right? Jill saying talking to people, having fun, using color. Wow. Trisha, being in nature whenever I can. Like, these are just really cool things. I also think it connects us in a way that I always feel, it makes me feel really warm. Now, your last thing on your chart was spend time to explore. And so tell us a little bit more what that feels and looks like. What does that mean?
Yes. So when you get down to 5, I still believe you need to get to 3. So you have an hour and a half. Look at those 5, take your time. This is what the key is. When you look at it and you say it to yourself, say swimming, say it out loud, feel, is there a reaction physically? And then go to the next one. Being with animals, helping at the dog shelter. How does it feel? Then the third one, being in a hospital setting, giving comfort to people. Feel. The top 3 that make you feel like your heart is swelling. those are the three you circle. It will happen. If you've written, honestly, the 10 things you like, you will get to 5, you will get to 3. And then for those 3, for first week, take the first thing and immerse yourself just for 1 hour in the week in that. So if it's swimming, can you go swimming? Can you learn about swimming? If you are inside, then Google and read everything you can about what it is about swimming you love. Call someone who might know or be in that world. And I have, during this pandemic especially, made new friends on LinkedIn. I've called strangers because of something I was interested in and asked them if I could have a brainstorming Q&A with them because I was so interested in what they were doing. And people want to share. You'd be amazed that people want to tell you about what they're doing. So find out, immerse yourself for an hour. If you can't physically, then somehow find a connection, read about the best swimmers or read about the types of strokes, whatever you want. 1 hour. The second week, the second subject, same thing, just an hour. And third week, the same thing with the last thing.
Okay.
Now,
Okay, no, I'm just going to say, Erin has shared with us, she likes to cook, garden, being with friends, family, ocean hikes, give back, share, discuss books and podcasts. She's really appreciating the exercise, right? Erin's a very purposeful person, but this actually helps us really explore. If let's say we're on a path of purpose, this really does help us, I would say, deepen and also add to our path. Right? It doesn't have
it looks like, I'm looking for the chat. It looks like everything Erin says is with people. She seems like she wants to be with people in a group setting. It seems, and I'm trying to remember because I don't want to go through the chat. It sounds like from what you said, Erin likes to be with people, cooking. I'm gonna guess.
Right. That's right. If you look at the chat, yeah, she does. That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. So I would pull that out if I were working with her and ask her to elaborate on that. And the more you give people space to elaborate and talk about what they love and why they love to do it, as the outsider, you can see what your friend or that stranger is coming to. It's almost like they are painting this picture. They don't even realize it. Somebody outside of them listens and can see sometimes. And then when you say to them, it sounds like, and you make it in one sentence, this is what fills you with love. This is what brings you joy. If you could combine these things, you'd have everything you love to do. And it's amazing how when you share like that freely, somebody can help you find what you didn't realize was right there.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if anybody wants to put their stuff, here's Sal. It's interesting. Everything he writes is with love. Love God, love humanity, love friends, love helping others without exception, without expectations is probably. Love my family, love art, love travel, love fitness, love outdoor activity. Sal, we love you. But wow, there's a lot of love in that person.
Yeah, Sal needs to be taking people on nature hikes and explaining to them and getting and just feeling the love of people sharing outdoor activities, new friends, and helping them see the way, not just physically, but see.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's funny because that's what he does. I should share with, I don't think Sal mind, but
wow.
Yeah, Sal for 1 month straight invites people to his home for dinner to celebrate Ramadan. Of all faiths, ethnicities, or whatever.
Love that.
So talk about purpose. He's fulfilling this purpose in a beautiful, beautiful way.
Yeah, it's all about sharing.
Huh?
It's all about sharing. I see his.
It's all about sharing for him. Yeah, absolutely. And Sue's like, I've always been an empath, but just can't find my path. Well, she's good with words for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own. Please feel free if you want to just brainstorm or want a good ear. I'm happy to listen. And I see who loves to paint.
Sherry.
Dawn. Oh, Sherry. Always want to try painting. Maybe this is the impetus. Sherry, love to paint. Paint. Just start painting. Don't think about, I have to quit my job. Don't think about how am I going to make money. let's do some exercises together if you have time.
All right. But we also have our person who's an empath but can't find her path.
Yes, that takes a little bit more one-on-one.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So there's another exercise that you encourage us all to do. We're going to put it up, and we've all heard this. We do this with our teen girls. I've actually heard extraordinary stories.
My messy vision board.
This is a vision board. Tell us about the power of vision boards.
I'm looking at the exact same thing on the screen as I am in front of me here at my desk. You know, subconsciously.
This is your vision board, Genevieve?
That's mine.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I was happy to share it. That's mine. It's a little messy. It started out neat, but when I feel this rush of something that I had a dream about, or that I heard a word or something I felt strongly connected to, I'll come in, and I love to handwrite, as I said before. So you'll see a lot of the handwritten stuff. And then I'll write it out, I'll cut it out on paper, and I'll pin it up there. It's very, very powerful. Just seeing it every day. You think you have to stare at it and meditate on it. You don't. You have to look at it and you have to take it in. And the whole magic of it is when you're making it, to feel the pictures. Get a bunch of magazines, write down things that you love to do and look for those pictures. But when you look at the picture, there could be 10 pictures of cars. The one that you feel is the one that you want to use. If you put up pictures that are just a pretty house, a nice fast car, a lot of money, it's not going to penetrate into what is the extension of intention in us to draw to us. So when I look at it, I put my face on things that I love. Now you can see, I don't know if you can see the woman with her blue jacket on with her hands outstretched like this. It's because that's how I want to feel all the time. And I put my own face on her. But that was a picture. When I saw her in that pose, I said, that's how I want to feel. So I'm looking at it with my face on it. And that makes me feel like that's me. So you really have to feel the pictures, and they really have to be really personal. And you do not have to show anybody. You know, I'm happy to. You're probably the only one that I said included in the presentation. I don't go around saying, you know, look at all the stuff on my vision board, but I thought it was important. And since Donna, you and Sherry asked me, I wanted to share it because you can see it's personal. It's so personal. And when I look at it, I know it's me. And that's what you have to do.
Yeah, listen, the fact that you're being so vulnerable and really sharing your thoughts, which is fantastic. Sue Kornhauser, I love that idea. You know, it's funny, as I'm listening to you talk, Genevieve, I have been through several vision board exercises with our teen girls. And interestingly enough, you've really given me some much deeper way of understanding and guiding them, because lots of times they just pick pop stars and, you know, blingy cars and blinging jewelry. And it's like, no, like the idea, take somebody you want to feel like all the time. And, but you know what, and maybe you start the exercise with, you know, and bring 5 of your own heads to put on people. So you can, you know, it's so interesting. But this idea that Jill is also echoing, a vision board for adults event, you know, I think we might want to do that. We do have an event called No Friends, where we bring women together who want to have more connections, who might have are new to the community because they've been like you, right? You're a corporate citizen and you don't have time for anybody else. You haven't had time to develop that. So we bring them together, but maybe we should do something like this.
I teach a masterclass on how to create a vision board. Because I had to stop my live in-person speaking events when pandemic started, people said, can you do a masterclass? So I ended up creating 15 different ones, and the 2 most popular, creating your own vision board is one of them. It's 45 minutes and it's a masterclass I do. And then finding purpose in chapter 2. And we talked about chapter 2 before. Those are the 2 most popular of the 15.
That's fantastic. I know Drew's on the call too, and I hope this is helpful for her, who has always been filled with ideas of her path and try to find the one that's purposeful for her. I want to welcome everybody to Refresh. This is the place where we come together to learn, to connect, to be inspired, and of course, get refreshed together. We're with Genevieve Piturro, who is an expert in purpose. She had that aha moment in her life and now is teaching us all how to find ours. And I think in a very tangible, specific way. But I have a question for you. Are we single or multi-purpose people? Meaning, can we have more than one purpose and feel fulfilled? Or can we have a single purpose and still feel fulfilled? How does that all work?
Yeah, I think we have more than one purpose. I would say I do. I mean, we have family. We have what we do for work and what we've chosen as career. I think that we have more than one purpose. That's fine. But I do think that we've put the 9 to 5 purpose out of sight, out of mind for all these years. And now, since the pandemic, and everyone's thinking, gee, what have I been doing all these years, going to work when I don't even like it? I think we're now demanding that 9 to 5 be filled with purpose too.
Right. Okay. So finding purpose in your work.
Mm-hmm.
Although there are people who want their work to be purposeful
Mm-hmm.
and fulfilling for them at the same time, right?
Right.
And I guess there's a question. I mean, I think when people usually come to me and talking about purpose and explaining their lives, there's different threads we can pull that are purposeful in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Does a purpose have to be 100% consuming to be the purpose?
No, but you just, I think we want purpose in every part of our lives. We want purpose in our relationships, one-on-one. We want purpose in family, extended children. We want purpose in work now more than ever. We want
Right.
purpose in our giving back. We don't want to just write a check or volunteer because our friends said, come volunteer. We want to find what is purposeful to us to give that time to, or that
Right.
money to. So I
Right.
think we want purpose 24/7. And I think that's right.
Well, I just want to let you know, we might have had at least an immediate success here because Sue says she just found her purpose because she's now going to put together our grown-up vision board exercise event, which would actually be a lot of fun. We have to start collecting magazines and doing all that other kind of stuff, right? You talked about taking the leap versus, I heard you say slide. Are there incremental steps here? I mean, is it like this leap? I love this image of you, right? Here. I'm jumping. Not
Right.
all of us feel innate. We don't feel like we're jumpers yet. What can we do?
Right. Yeah. I teach slide versus the leap. And I'll be teaching it also we're doing a summit, Find Your Purpose Summit in person, October 2nd in New York. And that's what I'll be teaching. We have a lot of different experts helping people find their purpose and taking the first steps. But as a little intro, you're right. Not everybody can jump. Not everybody should jump. I probably shouldn't have jumped, but of course, as it turned out, I'm glad I did. But it's my personality. It's what I do. I keep jumping. And that makes it difficult. Some of us have a difficult time, but we can't find another way. I jump and then I figure out how to swim. But I teach the slide. It starts off with the exercise we did. Immersing yourself for an hour in the top 3 things on your I love to do this list. And along the way, when I'm working with someone, we figure out, where are you now? Who does it affect? If you were to start talking and thinking, I might want to change one day and do this. And the slide obviously takes a little longer, but it's more of a planning, a strategic plan, if you will, of how to bring something into your life so that nothing, for lack of a better word, suffers. So I didn't have children. So if you have a family and you have children and you have responsibilities that some people don't have, that is definitely a consideration. And we need to talk through that. And there are so many steps, but a slide does work for people who aren't the jumpers, the leapers.
Right. So as Jory says, and this is such a really important question, is how do you overcome fear? We're afraid when we have not done things before. We're encouraged to be out of our safe zone, but how do we manage that? Like, what gets us to take this step? How do we make ourselves do it?
Dory, fear is going to be there. I've found, and let me tell you how many sleepless nights, how many tears I've cried, how many times I've said, what am I doing? How many doubts I've had. I get it. Believe me, I'm still afraid. I jumped again. I wrote a book. I started to speak right at the pandemic. Everything is shut down. I know fear, but I've also learned sometimes you have to do it afraid. I didn't want to say in 1 year, I'm going to be in the exact same place, because I was afraid. I just didn't want to say that. So sort of like closing your eyes and feeling your foot in the next step to make sure that there's a ground there, and taking a small step and trembling a little bit, but one step, another step, another step, and you get through it. But I don't think there's a way to just make it disappear. Getting through it, even if you're afraid, you get through it. And the joy on the other end of that accomplishment and where you see yourself, I hope will make it worth it.
I think it will. And it really does relate to what you said earlier. I can be afraid, but how do I want to ask this question? And 30 years from now, and I look back, do I want to see that I tried, even if I failed? Do I want to see somebody who was cowering in fear for whatever reason and stood still? I mean, that's a very motivating question.
Yeah, it's not easy. I'm not going to say it's easy. And again, I'm happy to talk to anybody and share and just listen. We all need support. And the one thing, and I write about this, is I didn't do right was I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, because I think a lot of you from your chats understand that it's scary to tell somebody you're going to make this big change, right? You don't want to, you're rocking the boat. People are going to be upset. They're going to be naysayers. I thought, finally, let me tell somebody. I chose a colleague, not in my job, because I obviously didn't want anyone to know, but I told a woman who was a working woman, who I thought was a friend too. We went for a drink, and I rehearsed so many times, but you know how silly it sounded to me when I rehearsed it? I think I'm going to stop working here because I want to give children pajamas for the rest of my life. I don't know how it's going to help me pay my bills, but it sounded ridiculous, even to me. So I said, well, I'm going to see, maybe she'll think this is wonderful and she'll want to help. I hope so. We met for drinks. I had a big gulp of my glass of wine. And I said, what came out was just what I just said to you. I'm thinking I had this experience. I went to and she looked at me and she said, why in the world would you want to do that? You have worked so hard. How are you going to make money? You're not saving their lives. You're not giving them a house. You're giving them a pair of pajamas. Can't you just do that once in a while? And I'm telling you, with everything she said that I just reiterated, I felt like she was just punching me in the gut. And I learned, after it took me days to get my self-confidence back, I did it the wrong way. I should have gotten my cheerleaders in place first and then been able to deal with those naysayers, because they're going to be there. Those people are going to show up.
Always. Yes.
If you have those cheerleaders who believe in you, even if they say, I have no idea how you're going to do it, but I know you'll figure it out, that will get you through.
Without a doubt. Let me ask you, we ask everyone this question when we remember. I'm remembering today. A piece of advice for your younger self, Genevieve.
Ask questions, especially when you don't know something. Don't be afraid to look like an idiot. That's the first thing I thought of, Donna. You didn't even ever ask me that before. So, I mean, I talk about.
I'm laughing because I get to see, we all feel that way. That is very honest.
Yeah.
I love that, because we all are worried about feeling like an idiot or looking like an idiot.
Yeah, and it delays
question asking. So I appreciate that wholeheartedly. I really do. Let's see. What is your hashtag, by the way? I didn't ask you this one either.
Purpose, passion, and pajamas.
No. A hash. So it's funny. I don't know if this came from the girls. I love how the girls inspire us and the way they think too. But like, if you had a hashtag that described you, hashtag, like for me, like what would it be? I don't know. Maybe mine is, I don't know, hashtag energy. What would yours be?
It's silly. One of our early supporters called me when I was doing this in the early days, and he started asking me all these questions on the phone. I was nervous. I thought he was going to arrest me for doing something illegal by bringing pajamas to these shelters. And after he asked me, why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for? He said, I'm sorry, I seem to have frightened you, but I was one of those little boys. I lived in an orphanage, and I cried at bedtime because I didn't have a mom. And all I could think about was, where's my mom? Where's my mom? And he said, I want you to know what you're doing matters. Those kids will feel the love. And he said, you're like my pajama mama. And he still to this day, 20 years later, calls me pajama mama. And so do several people in the know who know him and know our relationship. When you asked me that, Donna, I've never had or thought of a personal hashtag, and that's what came to mind, pajama
Oh,
mama.
it is fantastically beautiful, and it's a great way for us to kind of wrap up. Hashtag pajama mama. By the way, is really saying hashtag love, hashtag my purpose. That's what that's saying, and it's beautiful how you shared your story, and then even gave us some very, very actionable tips for us to move forward. And you know what's funny? Some people think, oh my God, it's going to be this big formula, but they're very simple, thoughtful things that we can do. So I just want to thank you. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope that we can all share in some of the great learnings we got today from Genevieve. I always take notes, as everyone knows. This is the one thing I just put a big box around, Genevieve, is sometimes you just have to go afraid. That's just it.
Do it afraid. And you know, I heard that in a TV movie.
And I love the reflective question, is this enough? And, you know, we are taught as women to never have enough. We are taught to have expectations that lead us to believe it's never enough. But this is the different question. This is the reflection on, is this a story I want to tell at the end?
Yes.
And right. And I love that really. And the idea of having an aha moment. I want to invite everyone, if I can, to join us September the 29th. We've decided to go on a monthly basis for July, September, and July, August, and September. I don't know, since COVID, I'm having real trouble with calendar, date, and time. Some people lose their hearing and smell. I've lost my sense of time, I think. Maybe some of you have as well. But September 29th, because we have a very special guest, a repeat guest, Leah Jewell. And for those of us who have spent time with Leah, she always draws a big crowd. She's a lifelong learning and employability expert. It's like, what is happening in the world of work? And to think from the first time we met her to now, how things have changed so dramatically. Again, she also gives us actionable tips on how we can continue to learn in an always on, always learning world in a really positive way. After that, we'll see you more frequently on an every other week basis. And I have to say, being with all of you reminds me just how valuable this time is together. So we're looking forward to that. And we have really some fantastic and amazing conversations, just like we've had with Genevieve today, so that we can all experience the spirit of Generation W and refresh together. If we have anyone interested in mentoring teen girls or even female collegiate athletes, we are actively engaged in 2 incredibly wonderful programs. Please do send us an email at info@genwnow.com. I'll say it again, info@genwnow.com. We'd love to share the work with you and see if there's a way that you can volunteer with us. Everyone wants to know how we can help, right? And if you will, think about the Afghani women and girls and their families. Keep them in your heart. Look for the link if you're interested. Save the date for August 29th. And most importantly, everyone, be safe, be well, and let's recognize together the blessings that we do have every single day. Genevieve, thank you so much, and good luck on October 2nd with your great summit in New York. If there's anyone who's going to be in New York, we'll make sure that they get in touch so they can join you in your great work. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks, everybody.